Picture this. We've all been there, right? It's 10:45 p.m. You've got a wildly tired kid sitting under a harsh desk lamp, just staring blankly at an unfinished worksheet. They reread the exact same sentence for the fourth time, make another totally careless error, and then the tears start. And you, as the parent, running on cold coffee and sheer desperation, you're completely exhausted too. But you're torn. You're standing there thinking, man, if I just let this go and tell them to go to bed, am I raising a kid who shirks the responsibilities? It's a massive dilemma because yes, deadlines absolutely matter, but as we'll see, biology matters just as much. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to tackle how to protect both your child's learning and their sense of responsibility when homework inevitably collides with bedtime. We'll look closely at why sacrificing sleep can actually sabotage the exact academic success you're working so hard to protect, and how you can totally redesign your evenings to avoid this trap. Here is our roadmap. We'll explore the late-night dilemma, look at why pushing for extra time backfires, identify root causes, lay out a 5-part protection plan, and finally, discuss handling unfinished work responsibly. Section 1. The late-night dilemma, or what happens when the clock literally becomes the enemy. It is so completely natural to ask yourself, does more time automatically equal more learning? I mean, logic says, if we just push through for one more hour, they'll learn more, right? Well, actually, no. For a severely tired child, forcing more time often produces far less understanding. It creates more mistakes, way more conflict, and ultimately guarantees a much harder start the very next morning. Which brings us to Section 2, why extra time fails. Let's talk about the biological reality of exhaustion. To fix this nightly battle, we really have to reframe how we view sleep. We've got to stop seeing it as a reward or just empty time taken away from studying. Sleep is an active, non-negotiable biological necessity. It actually continues the learning process long after the textbook closes. Think of the sleeping brain as running a massive overnight file sorting operation. It's actively consolidating new memories. Plus, it readies the brain for attention and regulates how we handle normal, everyday frustrations. A kid who studies till midnight but shows up to school totally exhausted is just going to remember less, focus less, and overreact to the smallest challenges. The problem is, we usually measure commitment by the clock, but we really need to contrast that with what a tired brain is actually capable of processing. Seeing your kid at a desk for 3 hours looks incredibly responsible, but late at night, it's often an illusion. The reality of that exhaustion is a child rereading without comprehending a single word, just mindlessly copying information, and needing constant adult help. At that point, you aren't protecting their learning. You are literally just protecting the appearance of effort. The better question to ask yourself is my child actually still able to learn from this? So how do we fix it? That leads into Section 3, identifying root causes by looking way beyond that final hour. Let's trace how a typical evening builds, because a bedtime crisis almost never actually starts at bedtime. It might start at 3:30 p.m. when they put off starting their homework. Then by 6 p.m., they fall down a YouTube rabbit hole, losing track of time and getting all riled up, which makes winding down later nearly impossible. By 8 p.m., panic sets in. They realize they severely underestimated a huge project. And boom, suddenly it's 10:45 p.m. and you've got a full-blown crisis. The fix isn't just yelling, go to bed earlier. It's redesigning the whole pathway from the moment they get home from school. And that is exactly what Section 4 is all about, the 5-part protection plan. This is your blueprint for the evening. What we need is a concrete step-by-step system, not rigid rules, but a highly adaptable framework. The 5 steps are establishing a sleep boundary, identifying priority tasks early, protecting their strongest attention period, running a late-night decision check, and finally closing responsibly. Let's break down the most critical parts of this blueprint. Step 1 is the sleep boundary. So what is that? It's a clear, calculated cutoff point when all academic work absolutely must start winding down. Notice I didn't say it's the minute they go to sleep. It's a buffer zone. It leaves time for a calming routine. Getting this boundary in place early means sleep is no longer treated as an emergency fund you dip into just to pay for poor planning. But hey, sometimes things go wrong. If you hit that sleep boundary and the work isn't done, it's time for the late-night decision check. Stop. Look at your child and ask yourself the hard questions. Is their accuracy plummeting? Is their distress going through the roof? And realistically, would 20 more minutes actually solve the problem? Or are you just dragging out the misery? If they aren't absorbing the material anymore, pushing them is completely counterproductive. Which brings us to a really tough question, covered in Section 5, responsibility and unfinished work. How do we close the loop honestly?
A huge worry for parents is that stopping early rewards laziness and teaches kids that deadlines are optional. Remember, protecting sleep isn't an automatic get out of jail free card for chores or homework. You have to use exact, empathetic language to pause the work while keeping them accountable. You can literally say, "We are not pretending the assignment disappeared. We are making a responsible plan for tomorrow." You protect their health, but you don't hide the incomplete work. You just respond transparently.
The real lesson here happens the very next day. The child has to actively participate in repairing the situation with their teacher. They need to be the one to step up and say, "I didn't finish the assignment. I started too late, and I need to improve my plan." What we absolutely have to avoid as parents is secretly doing the work for them or making up excuses. The ultimate goal here is true accountability without sacrificing their well-being. To figure out your family's unique rhythm and stop these crashes before they happen, try a 7-day audit. Just for 1 week, track the data. When does homework actually start? How long are the focused work periods? How many times are they interrupted by a phone buzzing? Exactly when does the fatigue hit? At the end of the week, pick just one upstream thing to change. Maybe move the phone to another room. Find out what's causing that downstream bedtime crash. Now, a quick note here. While this system is an absolute game changer for building healthy routines, it isn't medical advice. If your child has persistent trouble falling asleep, severe daytime sleepiness, or major mood shifts, you can't just schedule that away. A good routine supports sleep, but real sleep disorders definitely require guidance from a healthcare professional. I really want you to keep this phrase in mind. One late assignment is information. A repeated pattern needs a system change. That hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? We want to build a dynamic where true responsibility means planning well, owning up to mistakes honestly, and protecting the biological conditions a brain actually needs to learn. We're not choosing sleep over responsibility, we're making sleep a core part of that responsibility. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The next time you're sitting at that kitchen table at 11 p.m., staring at an unfinished math sheet and a crying kid, ask yourself, will tonight's battle actually build character and responsibility, or is it just going to cost tomorrow's learning? Don't let guilt or the clock make your decisions. Figure out what you are really trying to protect and consider how you can redesign tomorrow. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.